March Madness is officially here. We are just mere hours away from all the highlights, Cinderella stories, game-winning shots, and upsets that will destroy every single one of our brackets. With 68 teams in the tournament field, it's hard to keep up with every school. Luckily for you, I've got you covered. Without further ado, here's what you need to know about each team in this year's tournament. The Tigers' 16 quad wins are more than any other school. Auburn places second in terms of offensive efficiency and is led by National Player of the Year candidate Johni Broome. Broome's 17 points and 10 rebounds per game makes him one of just 11 players to average a double-double this year. The Blue Devils are the only school to rank top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating. The last 4 times Duke has won the national championship, they did so following winning both their regular season and conference championship. And the Blue Devils did just that by beating Louisville on Saturday night. If history is any indication, Duke is prone to hang another banner this March. Forward J'Wan Roberts sat out for the Cougars for part of the Big 12 tournament as the team didn't want him to risk injury. Despite this, the Cougars still captured their conference title in a big part of their defense. Opposing teams are averaging just 58.3 points per game against Houston, which is the best in the entire NCAA. The SEC tournament champs are a 1 seed for the first time since 2014, a year in which they made the Final Four. They went 5-1 versus Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn this year, who are all places 1 and 2 seeds. They averaged 17 points per game on fast break points, which is first among all tournament teams. Freshman guard Jace Richardson has come on strong as of late for the Spartans. He is averaging just under 17 points per game since being inserted in the starting lineup and is the only NBA prospect on the roster. Despite this, the Spartans still hold one of the top 5 defenses in the league, which helped propel them to win the Big Ten regular season title. The Crimson Tide are the best scoring team in the nation, coming into the Big Dance averaging 91.4 points per game. A big part of their offense is due to senior guard Mark Sears, who is averaging 19 points and 5 assists per game. The Tide are also one of 2 teams to hand the number 1 overall seed a home loss this season. The Volunteers entered the dance as a 2 seed, despite having one of the 5 toughest strength of schedules of all tournament teams. A key contributor to their success is their level of defense. They come in at number 1 in defensive rating and opposing field goal percentage, and have even held 12 regular season opponents to under 60 points. Head coach Rick Pitino became the first coach in NCAA history to win a conference championship at 5 different schools. The Cardinals also marked the 6th program he's ever taken to the dance, which is also an NCAA record. On the player side, guard RJ Lewis is catching fire at the right time, dropping over 20 points in 5 of his last 6 games. In a shocking announcement following Selection Sunday, it appears that senior guard Keyshawn Gilbert will be out for the tournament. Gilbert averaged 13.5 points and 4 assists per game for the Cyclones and was the team's leader in both assists and minutes. The Cyclones are just 9-8 in their last 17 regular season games, and this injury won't help them in the big dance. The duo of John Tonje and John Blackwell is enough to give any team nightmares. Tonje set a school record for most points in a tournament game with their win over a red-hot Michigan State team. His play will be a huge determining factor in the Badgers' success, as the guard has shot an abysmal 38% from 2-point range in their regular season losses. The Red Raiders finished second in the Big 12 this year and are ranked as the 7th best team in Ken Palm's latest net ratings. They have 4 players shooting over 40% from beyond the arc, and their frontcourt duo of JT Toppin and Darren Williams is a matchup nightmare for any opposing team. First-year head coach Mark Pope has already seen remarkable success with the program, as his 8 wins versus AP top 15 teams this year tied a school record. Lamont Butler's health has proven pivotal for the Wildcats, as the team ranks top 40 on the defensive end when he plays. The Aggies come into the tournament as the best offensive rebounding team in the nation. While the team has 10 losses on the year, they are the only team to have beaten top-seeded Auburn by double digits. They also have an impressive resume against non-conference teams, with wins over Ohio State, Creighton, Texas Tech, and Purdue. The Terps entered the dance on a hot streak. They finished the regular season 11-2, with one of those losses coming from a half-court buzzer beater. Freshman center Derek Queen is projected to be an NBA lottery draft pick, averaging 16 points and 9 rebounds per game. Maryland has the 9th best adjusted defensive efficiency, holding opponents to just 67 points per game. Despite losing former National Player of the Year in Zach Edey, the Boilermakers find themselves towards the top of tournament seeding. Big Ten Player of the Year Braden Smith averages the 2nd most assists per game at 8.7. Purdue has gathered impressive wins throughout this season, with victories over Alabama, Michigan, and Maryland. However, the team is just 3-6 in their last 9 games and places 159th in adjusted defensive efficiency. The Wildcats season has been an absolute roller coaster. The team started off 4-5 before rattling off 13 wins in their next 14 matchups. However, Arizona is 3-5 in their last 8 games and has struggled mightily behind the arc. The team collectively shot 29% from 3 in the stretch and is ranked just 92nd in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency. After finishing the regular season with a 2-4 record, the Wolverines recaptured momentum by winning their conference tournament. This run included wins over 3-seeded Wisconsin and 4 seeds Purdue and Maryland. Their duo of 7-foot big men in Danny Wolf and Vladdy Golden can provide problems for any opponent they face. The Ducks are coming in as one of the hottest teams in the country. They have won 8 out of their last 10 games, with their only 2 losses coming to number 2 seeded Michigan State. They've also posted non-conference wins against both Alabama and Texas A&M. Center Nate Biddle is the name to look out for, as he is averaging 22 and 10 in his last 3 games. The Tigers won 14 of its final 15 regular season games, including a win over Duke. This result gave the Blue Devils their only conference loss this year. 4 of Clemson's 5 starters are averaging over 10 points per game, with senior Chase Hunter leading the way. His 16 points per game on 41% shooting from deep shows NBA potential. From one Tiger to the next, Memphis posts a top 50 defense and shoots 39% from beyond the arc, which is good enough for 6th in the nation. American Athletic Conference Player of the Year PJ Haggerty averages 21.8 points per game. Only 2 other players in the entire NCAA average more than the sophomore guard. The Rebels are dancing for the first time since 2019 and ranked top 30 in both offense and defense. They placed third nationally in terms of turnover percentage and have bolstered wins over BYU, Louisville, Alabama, Kentucky, and Tennessee throughout their campaign. Since February 8th, the Cougars have gone 10-1 with wins over Kansas, Arizona, and Iowa State twice. They post one of the most efficient offenses in the dance, especially from 2-point range. All Big 12 first team Richie Saunders leads the team in scoring, putting up 16 points per game, including shooting 44% from deep. The Tigers are headed to their 3rd tournament appearance in the last 5 seasons. Transfers Mark Mitchell and Tony Perkins have Missouri placing 5th in adjusted offensive efficiency. Throughout the season, the team managed to post impressive wins over Kansas, Alabama, and Florida. The Illini are a top 15 offensive unit that also ranks 40th in adjusted defensive efficiency. Their 4-game win streak to end the regular season included victories over both Purdue and Michigan. Projected lottery pick Kasparis Jekiechunas is one to look out for, as he is averaging over 15 points per game to go along with 4 assists and 5 rebounds. The Bruins are top 20 in terms of adjusted defensive rating and have an impressive resume with wins over Oregon, Arizona, Wisconsin, Gonzaga, and Michigan State. Junior forward Tyler Bilodeau leads the team in scoring with 13 points per game, shooting 50% from the field and 41% from 3-point range. The Jayhawks finished 6th in the Big 12 this season, but posted wins against both the Blue Devils and Spartans earlier in the year. Transfer Hunter Dickinson is averaging 17 and 10 with a block per game and is projected to finish as an All-American. The team also features championship experience, as both DeJohn Harris Jr. and KJ Adams Jr. were a part of the 2022 team that won it all. The Gales are one of the best rebounding teams in the tournament and display a top 15 defense. They went 17-1 in conference play this year, which included 2 wins over Gonzaga. They are led by Western Coast Conference Player of the Year Augustus Marciulionis. He is just one of 20 players to average at least 6 assists this season. Being led by National Player of the Year contender Cam Jones, the Golden Eagles have one of the nation's better backcourts. The team plays an old-school style of ball and shoots at an efficient 55% from inside the arc. They've gathered solid wins over Wisconsin, Maryland, and Purdue earlier in the year, but haven't produced a win against a top 50 team since January 3rd. Last year, the Huskies became the first repeat champion since the 2006-2007 Florida Gators. If they were to win it all this year, they join the UCLA Bruins as the only other school to three-peat. This team has seen improvement since the return of Liam McNeely, but will need magic from the previous 2 seasons if they hope to make it to the final weekend. Point guard Ryan Nembhard leads all players nationally with 9.8 assists per game and plays a big part behind the team's offensive success. Their 86.5 points per game on 50% shooting ranks them 2nd nationally in both categories. The Cardinals sported both a top 30 offense and defense throughout the season and saw a 19-win improvement from the year prior. Louisville finished 2nd in ACC standings and ended their regular season winning 18 of their final 19 games. Wisconsin transfer Chucky Hepburn has seen huge development, going from 9 points per game last year to just under 17 in his tenure with the Cards. The Bulldogs will be dancing for the 3rd year in a row. All SEC second-team selection Josh Hubbard is putting up over 17 points per game and has scored 25 or more points in 6 games this year. The Blue Jays have made it to the Sweet 16 in 3 of the 4 past tournaments. Their roster bolsters elite talent with the likes of star point guard Stephen Ashworth and Big East Defensive Player of the Year Ryan Cockburner. This is Cockburner's 4th time being awarded this honor, which is a feat that has only been matched by Hall of Famer Patrick Ewing. 6'11" forward Asa Newell has shown an array of talent on both sides of the court. He is putting up over 15 points and 6 rebounds per game in the league's toughest conference. The Bulldogs won their final 4 games of the regular season and even notched wins over St. John's, Kentucky, and Florida earlier this year. The Bears have fallen massively short of preseason expectations. After being projected to make the Final Four back in November, Baylor finished just 19-14 and 10-10 in conference play. Freshman Robert Wright and NBA lottery draft pick VJ Edgecombe will take this team as far as their level of play goes. Despite finishing 13th in the SEC, the Sooners notched quality non-conference wins over Arizona, Louisville, and Michigan. Freshman guard Jeremiah Fears is a player who can take over any game he is in. The potential top 10 lottery pick has scored 28 or more points in 3 of his last 4 games. Led by Rick Pitino's younger brother, Richard Pitino, the Lobos are in the tournament for the first time in a decade. Junior guard Donovan Dent's 20 points per game is good enough for 8th in the nation, and his 6.5 assists per game rank him 12th in this category. The Lobos are a top 20 team in adjusted defensive efficiency and have 6 wins against KenPom top 50 teams this year. The Aggies are on their 4th head coach since 2019 and still manage to make the tournament with every single one of them. They post one of the top offensive units in the nation, ranking among the top 20 in terms of adjusted offensive efficiency. First-year head coach Mark Byington has the Commodores in the Big Dance for the first time since 2017. While they finished in the bottom tier of the SEC, they managed to pull off wins against Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri. The Razorbacks aren't your typical 10 seed. They have 5 Quad 1 wins, including victories over Michigan, Kentucky, and Missouri. Arkansas is 12-3 when holding teams to 70 points or fewer, and rank as the 20th best defense in terms of adjusted efficiency. The Aztecs have gathered impressive wins against Creighton and Houston this year. They rank 12th nationally in terms of defense and are the number 1 shot blocking team in the country. Despite being 1-12 versus Quad 1 teams, the Tar Heels find themselves in the first 4. They have won 8 out of their last 10 games and look to carry that momentum heading into the tournament. Point guard RJ Davis, who is one of the most experienced players in the nation, is averaging 17 points per game. The last time the Rams entered the Big Dance as an 11 seed, they made it all the way to the Final Four. VCU owned both the best offense and defense in their conference this year. The team is led by Atlantic 10 Player of the Year, Max Shulga, who is averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists while shooting 41% from 3. Drake posted a 30-3 record this year with wins over foes such as Kansas State and Vanderbilt. Their 3 losses all came from a combined 13 total points. Texas finished towards the bottom of the SEC, but was able to squeeze in the dance thanks to some wins in the conference tournament. The Longhorns finished just 5-13 against top 50 teams, but do possess high-end talent, especially with Trey Johnson. The 6'6 guard scores at a high rate with 20 points per game on 40% shooting from deep. The Musketeers entered the Big Dance as one of the league's hottest teams. Since February 1st, the team has had a top 25 defense and posted wins over both UConn and Marquette. The team as a whole shoots 39% from 3 and is led by Zach Fremantle's 19.5 points per game. Forward Anawania Tate Jones gets to the line more than any other player in the league. He is averaging just under 20 points per game with 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1.3 steals per game. The team's defense is a driving factor behind their 30-4 record. They allow just 62 points per game while averaging 10 steals and forcing 16 turnovers. The Flames are a matchup nightmare for any team they face, especially when they heat up from 3. They rank in the top 5 in terms of 3-point percentage and finished 12-20 from beyond the arc in their conference championship game. The Cowboys dominated their conference on every aspect of the court this year. The team walked away with Conference Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year. The team as a whole shoots 40% from beyond the arc and forces turnovers on 22% of their opponent's possessions. The Rams have been one of the most efficient teams in the league since the new year. Since January 1st, they've shot 58% from 2-point range, which is 17th nationally. Also, their 40% from deep is good enough for 6th in the country. Senior Nick Clifford is a big contributor to their success. The 6'6 wing is currently averaging 18, 10, and 4 on 39% shooting from 3. After erasing a 15-point deficit to Winthrop in the Big South title game, the Eagles are going dancing for the first time in program history. Their 122 points per 100 possessions is good enough for the 4th best offense in the nation. Under James Jones, the program will be entering the tournament for the 3rd time in 4 years. Bezim Bang took home Ivy League Player of the Year while only being the Bulldogs' 3rd leading scorer. John Palatakis and Nick Townsend both average more with over 15 points per game. This roster features many returning players from the team that upset Auburn last year and could be poised to play spoiler again. The Zips won the MAC championship and have only lost 1 game since the start of 2025. During the stretch, the team went 21-1, including 11 wins by double digits. They shot 60% from inside the arc and connected on 38% from deep. Akron features MAC Player of the Year Nate Johnson, who has scored at least 19 points in 8 or more games this year. The Lopes are led by all-WAC first-team All-Selection Tyon Grant Foster. His 14 points and 1.5 blocks per game have the team as a top 60 defense nationally. Their roster returns many pieces from the team last year that upset St. Mary's and kept it close with the Crimson Tide. The Bison are in the tournament for the 2nd time in program history. The team is led by Jacob Ognazovic, a 6'8 forward who is averaging 20 points and 8 rebounds per game. Lipscomb ranks top 50 nationally in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Since January 20th, the Grizzlies have shot 61% from inside the arc and 42% from 3. They score 125 points per 100 possessions, which puts them as a top 40 offense nationally. Montana finished the season winning 14 of their final 15 games and are being viewed as a popular Cinderella option. The Trojans are the 5th best team in offensive rebounding and even placed top 5 in terms of opponent 2-point percentage. Since February 8th, Troy has lost just 1 game and defeated their opponents by an average of 16 points per game in their conference tournament. The Seahawks are dancing for the first time in 8 years and have been a top 60 offensive team since January 16th. This team shoots 56% from inside the arc and is led by Donovan Newby's 14 points per game. The Bulldogs are on a hot streak, having won 16 of their last 18 games, with their 2 losses coming by a combined 9 points. However, when facing off against Quad 1 teams, they are averaging 21.5 turnovers per game. The Mavericks are a team that is dancing for the first time. Head coach Chris Crutchfield took over the 5-25 program and in just 3 years has them in the tournament. While they did win their conference championship, they already qualified as their opponent in the game, the University of St. Thomas, wasn't eligible due to them being in their final year of transition. The Colonials entered Selection Sunday following a 10-game winning streak. Led by Horizon League Coach of the Year, Andy Toole, the team is playing postseason hoops for the first time in a decade. This team won only 10 games last year and looked to recapture the magic that their conference partner Oakland possessed from a year prior. The Terriers won their conference tournament games by an average of 13 points and are in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. They finished the season with only 5 losses, but one of those came in a 51-point blowout to Duke. The Cougars are another school that is making their first tourney appearance after winning the Ohio Valley. This team ranks towards the bottom in terms of points per game, sitting at 219th. However, they make up for it on the defensive end. They placed 21st in terms of points allowed per possession and 8th in opponent 2-point percentage. After being picked to finish last in their conference, the Red Flash rode a 6-game winning streak to recapture their conference tournament title. Led by Riley Parker's 13 points per game and 40% from 3, the team will still be competing in March for the first time since 1991. On February 8th, the Hornets were just 9-14 overall and 5-5 in conference play. Since then, they've won 10 out of their last 11 games and will be in the tournament for the first time since 2011. They are the 4th school from Alabama to qualify for the dance this year. First-year head coach Donnie Lynn clinched his team's ticket to the big dance and even bolstered a win against Miami earlier this season. Point guard Arlandis Keys came up huge for the Mountaineers in their conference tournament. He scored just under 13 points per game while connecting on 47% of his attempts from deep. The Eagles will be seeing postseason ball for the first time in over a decade. Senior center Matt Rogers is averaging 17 points and 5.5 rebounds for the Eagles and even put up 25 points in the Patriot League championship game. The Spartans clinched March Madness for the 3rd time in 5 years and even have a win against High Point, who are ranked as a 13th seed. Senior guard Brian Moore Jr. shoots over 40% from 3 and has had 8 games this season of scoring at least 24 points. So now that you know about all the teams in the tournament, tell me, who do you think will win it all? Who is on upset alert, and who do you think is poised to be the next Cinderella story? Put your answers down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your input. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. Thanks for watching as always, and until next time, peace.